Hello, Omar. We have a couple minutes before we start, but did you want to say anything or have any comments before you and I start our interview?
No, I don't know what's happening right now. So I'm just watching you present to the audience. So yeah, it's all good.
Well, our last guest didn't show up, and so I had a time slot to fill, which is my whole job. So I'm like,
Okay.
just keep talking, keep talking.
All right. Well, I'm sorry the last guest didn't make it, but I'm here, ready to go.
Life happens. It happens every event. Like I expect this kind of thing. So I did. I had the website up behind the scenes just in
Mhm.
case, ready to go.
That's a
So we
great
can start a
host right
couple
there.
minutes early. So I'll do this. There we go.
Okay.
Welcome, Omar, to Blue Talks Amplify Your Message. I am happy to have you here. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
joining
Laura.
us.
Very happy to be here as well.
Mm. So I like to start off these interviews as I grab my notebook because I always take notes. I like to start off these interviews just a little bit different because I want to get to know Omar as a human being first. And then we can get into your message, get into your business, all of that. That's fun. But I want to know you as a human being because I think that matters more than anything.
Sure.
So here's my opening question. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Um, I think it's a great question. And I think that the three words I like to be described as is considerate,
Mm.
uh, generous, and supportive.
Hmm. The last one always makes me feel like you're giving me a hug. I like it. So the only follow-up I have to that, and then we just get into playing and being curious, is how do those 3 words, considerate, generous, and supportive, how do they play a key role in that core message that you have for people?
Well, I think that my core message is that it's time for us to begin spending much more effort and energy in elevating our characters and
Ooh.
less so in amplifying our avatars. And so, character is what you choose, regardless of what's happening in the internal and external environment. And so, if you can choose to be considerate, generous, and supportive, regardless of what's happening internally and externally, then you're going to be someone who people gravitate towards and someone who makes a difference in the world. So I think that that really aligns up very well with my message that I want to amplify.
Aw. I love how clear and concise you were. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you understood the question.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that I got this clear because you said it so eloquently, and I want to make sure I capture that. So, time to elevate our characters versus
Mm-hmm.
amplifying our avatars.
Yes, yes. So a lot of us we walk around, especially now in the age of social media and 5-second sound bites. Everybody's a celebrity.
Mhm.
Everybody, it's the cult of me, right? And in the cult of me, the less human you show up, the better off you are, actually. And so we know that everything we're seeing online is manufactured to elicit a response, even if the response is negative and towards our worst angels. And so I think it's time for us to choose higher character
Mm.
and be the best version of ourselves versus being the version of ourselves that we think will get the most clicks.
Yes. Ooh, you would probably love this new social media that's out. It's still in beta, but I'm part of the beta. It's called Gander.
Gander.
And that's the whole thing is it wants to minimize the likes and actually grow that natural engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, ooh, how are we doing this? How are we playing with it? How can I test it out? So I love that you
Nice.
brought that up because there are some things starting to kind of combat slash shift that energy.
Mm-hmm.
So what got you into wanting to do this work of, I'm just going to call it the cult of me because I really liked the way that you phrased that.
I think ultimately, my journey, my corporate journey, really my life journey, the example that my parents set, as servant leaders, I think it's in my DNA to make the choice of being and showing up as a better version of myself. And I've seen the impact that's had on, others who I've kind of come into contact with around the world. I've lived on 4 different continents
Oh, wow.
over the course of 20 years. I spent over uh 14 years overseas, living overseas in US, Middle East, Latin America, and Asia. And I think that what I've seen, regardless of what was happening with the underlying technology, what was happening societally, was this movement towards servant leadership and people who show up in service of others, and how that actually serves the self
Mm.
versus showing up with ego and self-orientation because of the fear we hold that we need to protect ourselves from the world, and that limits your ability to actually provide your gift to everyone around you. And I'm all about helping. I've always been about, and I'm all about helping people unleash their gifts for
Mm.
others. And then when you're living in your gift, then you're definitely going to reap the benefits of doing so.
Oh, okay. Uh, where do I start? I think I want to start with the fear, the ego, and that whole idea of protection from the world because it's very
Right.
timely right now.
Yes. Yes.
Which we won't get into, but I mean it always is in some capacity. How do we know that we're in that place? But then how do we kind of step back from that and go back into the self-empowerment, unleashing our gifts and really owning that?
So what happens, the ego exists for a reason, right? The ego exists, originally it existed as a self-preservation instinct to save us from danger, right? We were in a for thousands or maybe even millions of years, humanity lived in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in the world was trying to get rid of us. And so we evolved this very this highly honed self-preservation instinct. Over time, though, as we began terraforming the world and making it less dangerous, fear became the root of ego, not actual danger. And I like this quote that danger is real, but fear is a choice. And if fear is a choice, then ego is also a choice. And if ego is a choice, then the opposite of ego, which is selflessness, is a choice. And so it's realizing in the current moment, if you meditate or if you have a mindfulness practice or if you journal, it's recognizing that, first of all, that the trauma from your past that created your current ego state is real. So that's real. And you don't want to, no one should invalidate that or gaslight you around how you feel. However, yes, and if you're no longer in the situation where those conditions that created the ego need are present, then you can drop the ego in favor of a different way of operating in the world. And so it's recognizing that what got you here won't get you there in the ego sense.
I think that's kind of in other senses too. I hear that a lot in elevating your business from,
Hmm.
let's say, 4-figure months to 5-figure months to 6-figure months, wherever you're at. Like, it
Right.
does not take the same person to reach that next level as it took you to get to that one. And you're like,
Exactly.
ah, shoot.
Yes, yes. So when I coach executives, I talk to them about this. Are you leading from fear, which means you're leading from ego?
Yep.
Or are you leading from scarcity, or are you leading from abundance?
Yeah.
Because if you're leading from scarcity, then you believe that you're trying to hold on to your position, you're trying to hold on to what you have, you're defending yourself against your peers, you're in this exhaustive space all the time. Versus if you operate from an abundant mindset, which is within myself and within everyone around me is unlimited resources, unlimited capability, unlimited possibility, unlimited answers. It really shifts how you show up in the world, and it transforms your own what you lean into in yourself. So you don't lean into fear, you lean into your capabilities, your talents, your strengths, your unique perspectives, everything positive and good that you have, you can bring that to bear for yourself and for others.
Definitely. Two examples on that is the one conversation we have is talking about the pie all the time, getting a piece of the pie, but we keep forgetting we can just make more pie.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
one,
yeah,
the one that I told my daughter just this week, maybe late last week, is, hey, child, because she's 16, but I still call her child. I was like, what if you were the sun? Are you gonna like dim your light for people? Are you gonna just refuse to burn them? Are you just gonna aim yourself in this general direction? No,
hmm
you're the sun. You are. You are always
yes,
shining, and it's up to other people to put on the suntan lotion. It's up
exactly.
to other people to wear the sunglasses,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's up
yeah,
to
yeah.
other people to choose how they want to react and respond to you,
1000%.
not the
Yeah,
other way around.
exactly. I love that.
It's still a hard one to embody, though. So, how do you help people go from like knowing something is true to actually embodying that knowledge?
It just goes back to making you understand the conscious and unconscious choices that you're making.
Mm,
So unconscious choices stem from maybe fears or traumas or incidents in your life that you have not yet fully examined, or in the case of a child, you may not have the developed frontal cortex to even do so
yeah.
at this stage. You're feeling things that you have no processing ability for. And you're going through the tumult of teenagehood, which is, we talk about VUCA and the environment: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, but it happens inside of ourselves as well. I mean, we live a VUCA reality as adolescents, right? Teenagers, you're dealing with all kind of stuff. And so it's really hard to find grounding. So the first thing I tell people is just learn how to practice non-reactivity.
Mm.
So get really good at, if you, to use a baseball analogy, just watching pitches pass. Like the best hitters, they don't take every pitch. They're very choiceful about the pitches that they take. And so, take your pitch. And so react when it's your time, when it really is something that is worthy of a reaction from you, because not everything is worthy of a reaction to you. And
Yeah.
everything now in society is trying to get a reaction from you.
Yep.
And so the more you can practice mindfulness and non-reactivity, the more headspace you have when you actually need to make a response and make a move and do what it is. But it's kind of like, that's the first step for me, is grounding yourself in non-reactivity, overriding that internal response. And this is actually what Navy SEALs are trained on, and Marines are trained on. Have you ever seen the exercise when they tie them up on the beach? They're tied together on the beach, and they have to basically go into the water
Oh,
together.
yeah.
And so what that exercise is designed to do, it's not designed to drown people. It's designed to make you override that fear instinct, that reactive instinct, that basically that fight or flight.
Yeah.
Trust the people next to you, and understand, and also resolve yourself to a certain fate. And it's designed to make you just calm yourself down and say, you know what, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about the situation. And that mindset is, if that mindset is fundamental in combat, it's also fundamental in our daily lives, because we are in combat in every day as well.
Yes, we are. We just talked about that earlier too, is the overarching label of stress, when really that's 20 different emotions, 40 different emotions. Being able to articulate which one or ones you're feeling has a huge impact on what actions you take next and how you see the world around
Exactly. Not so understanding volatility is different from uncertainty, is different from complexity, is different from ambiguity, as an example.
you.
So
Mm,
one of my books, Leading Change, I talk about those exact, basically the key to leading change is to understand that these four things, change can be divided into categories, and depending on the category, the response is different.
yeah.
If you're in uncertainty, then what do? You need to go find answers, right? Whereas if you're in ambiguity, you need to slow everything down, because you're basically in a dark room where you don't know where the edges are, you don't know where anything is. You need to go really, really slow and very, very careful, proceed very, very carefully.
Yeah.
Complexity, you want to break it down, right? So, but knowing that not all situations are exactly the same is absolutely critical. That's why you have to practice non-reactivity, because you want to see what the pitcher is throwing,
Yeah.
what is coming at you, so you can actually react appropriately. And you get to watch a few pitches go by before you can say, oh, now I know what situation I'm in, and now I can calibrate my response appropriately to the right situation.
Ooh, two things on that too. The first one was I giggled because a friend of mine owns a place called the Flotation Center. And the first time I went
Uh,
into a float tank, it was
you freak out.
quite,
You
it
freaked out,
was,
didn't you?
it was nerve-wracking because I
Yeah.
was high anxiety. And if you don't know what a float tank is, people who
Sensory
are watching,
deprivation. Yeah. Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're in really dense salted water in a big
Yeah.
tank. So I
Hmm.
was just floating there, and then all of a sudden you eventually float to an edge. But when you're in the middle of mindfulness and you touch
Freaks
something,
you
you're
out. Freaks you out. You almost drowned. You almost drowned.
well, no, you can't even sit on the
Can't
bottom. There's
drown.
so much salt.
You can't. Yeah, you're like an inch deep. Like actually, it's not that deep, by the way. It's not. Those are not very deep.
Hers was about a foot deep.
Oh, a foot. Okay, well, I
Yeah,
guess you could. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But it just made me think of that experience and just
yeah.
yeah, the uncertainty in that. I don't remember what the second story was because I got excited about that one.
It's okay. We'll get
But
back to it. I'm sure.
I also like that you brought up that baseball analogy because the
Hmm.
one that I learned through the medical version of mindfulness, so I learned the non-secular through the medical system. That's
Hmm.
where I was mentored. She used the analogy of like fish going down a stream. You
Hmm.
don't have to run down the bank and grab all of the fish that you see. Like just
Right.
stop, just watch them go by. If you're
That's kind
hungry,
of what.
go get
Yeah.
one.
That's what bears do, right? They wait for the right one. They wait for the biggest, juiciest one, and they go in there and grab it.
Hmm.
They watch a lot. They let a lot of fish go by. They let a lot of salmon go down the stream, and they grab the big ones.
Yeah.
You know.
So you mentioned okay, practicing non-reactivity and
Hmm.
mindfulness, which I'm totally a fan of that.
Hmm.
But that was only number one. You kind of got me interested in the rest. Like, what's number two?
I lost my train of thought. So number two of.
See, I also okay. I think I remember the second story. The second story was I think you've been looking into my search history today because this is the kind of conversation that I'm trying to frame for my own signature talk in a slightly different way.
Okay.
And
All
it was
right. All right.
really hitting on the fact that in corporate, especially, one of the biggest things that is causing people to not be as productive is all of these distractions in many
Mm,
different forms. People
mm,
distraction, technology distraction,
mm, mm.
all of it, okay? Meetings that should not be meetings.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
yet this is the pattern behind it all, saying that, that psychological safety, understanding how to not engage with the distractions is step number one.
Yeah. 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 I mean, one of the first things I do with my executive coaches is I tell me, show me your phone, screen of your phone, and
Oh, no.
you have the notifications, right? I'll see all your notifications. Like, no,
I'm
go
watching
to
us
your go to,
live.
yeah, you watch it. But if you're on your home screen, I don't know if it's on you're on an Android, right? So I don't know if you have the
Look,
notification pop-ups,
there
but
you
you'll
go.
see
There's
yours
the,
look okay. See, I want to see one little red dot there. So you're pretty good. You're all right. You look
yeah,
okay.
I don't like
But
the
like
dog.
on some people's phones, you see it's just a zone of red notifications
That's a
indicators all
different
over the
screen.
place. That's very good. So you don't
Yeah.
you're not actually being bombarded. So my whole thing is first of all, control the technology. Don't let the technology control you.
Ooh,
Control the
good
technology.
area.
Turn off notifications. Go into your messages when you want to, not when the phone tells you to. You know, do it. You know, you are in charge. You are in charge. I mean, it's all these things. You're in charge of what meetings you go to. You're in charge of how you schedule your day. You're in charge of what you give energy to and what you don't give energy to. Especially as an executive leader, you have to really be very cognizant of your energy allocation and
Mm,
also what I call the eye of Sauron. Wherever the eye of Sauron looks, things happen. So you have to be very careful about your eye of Sauron because sometimes you're looking in places where people need to be left alone. And sometimes you need to look very, very deeply into things that you're not looking at all because you're not spending enough time in the right places. And so that's some of the work we do is to understand how and where they're marshaling and allocating their time because their time it literally is their most precious resource because
mm,
you are in charge of making decisions, and so your emotional energy and capacity has to be allocated towards solid decision making process, and that takes time and effort. And if you are being pulled in a million different directions, there's no way that you can possibly show up in the moments that matter as the best version of yourself with high character and, lead through a good decision making process.
I want to play in a slightly like side conversation to that just for a moment
Right.
because I want to bring up something important that speaks to all of this as well as the pattern of the day, which happens to be resilience for some reason, but cool.
Okay. Love it.
Um, I also know that in order to make decisions and make good decisions, we really can't be in that stress response. Like, I know it shuts down the logical part of our brain. I'm kind of explaining for people who don't know, but obviously I know that you do. So, yay! I love you already, Omar.
Mhm.
Uh, how can we create environments to help, especially in corporate and C-suite? How can we manage environments to help kind of shut off that stress response so that we could get back into our logical brain, so we could get that executive functioning back and actually make decisions that matter with less effort, with less, I'm going to say time versus energy management within this.
Right, right. So the
Yeah.
key to that to me
Yeah.
is having a compelling North Star vision and mission. So you have a North Star vision and mission. Why is the North Star vision and mission? First of all, they're all different things. So
Yep.
the North Star is your reason for being. Like, why does this function or this company or this organization, this department, why does it exist? Fundamentally, what does it exist to do? So what does it serve? Right?
Yep.
Your vision is, okay, we're constantly going through transformation. It's far better for you to dictate where you're going versus that to be dictated towards you. So vision is saying, where do we want to be in the next 3 years? Right. So you're saying, you're articulating a destination saying, we're here now. We want to be here in 3 years. Otherwise, you get swept along by the currents of whatever's happening around you, and you may end up there. You may end up in a very, very different place. And then mission is the daily commitment, the daily work that we have to allocate towards to achieve the vision that also honors the North Star. Right. When you have those three things in place, those guide decision making, not stress. So you look at you remove yourself from stress and say, okay, what does the North Star say at any
Mm.
given time we should be doing?
Yeah.
What are the activities and decisions that will get us closer on the journey to the vision versus taking us away from the journey to the vision? And then how does this help our daily work or block our daily work? So having those three pillars is the fundamental element for executives to begin to manage stress because it gives you agency. Stress is fundamentally, if you go back to Stephen Covey's first law of highly effective people, the law of proactivity states that at any given time, there are more concerns than there are influenceables than there are controllables. But the highly effective person and leader focuses on the controllables, which is North Star vision, mission. They allocate some energy towards influenceables and they ignore concerns altogether. Easier said than done, but when you can separate concerns from actionables, that's the first step in being able to move things forward.
I'm going to give a nerd example, and you might laugh at this one. It's
I
like
love
when
it.
you have the huge bucket of Lego and you're trying to find the one tiny piece, and you just tell your mind it's the purple piece. And so your mind goes, okay, and it can generally, not always perfectly,
Right,
delete the other stuff, and you can
right.
really focus in
You're
on the thing
looking for
that you want.
purple. Yeah, exactly, exactly. You declutter your brain so that you have a.
Mhm.
It's basically, people are talking about this a lot, but separating the signal from the noise.
Yeah,
So how do you find signal?
yeah.
Signal is mission, vision, North Star. Noise is everything else, everything else. And so one of the things, once I help my executives and their teams establish North Star vision, mission, then we begin to look at the work next to those things. Say, is the work we're doing in alignment with these things? Not loose alignment, high alignment. Because if it's not in alignment, then we are not running our own program. And if we're not running our own program, then we have no control over the destination. And we should not be surprised and shocked when we don't get there.
Okay, now you're making me think of how I write. So when I write like a chapter or something long, something that I can't just write in one sitting, what I usually do is at the very top of whatever document I've opened, I write the title of whatever it is I'm doing, but then I write an intention statement.
Mm.
before I write anything else. There's no context, there's no table of content, nothing. What is my intention with whatever this piece is? So
Right.
that I don't forget what it is I'm trying to focus on and what my outcome is
Yeah.
going to be.
Yeah. I love
Then
that.
I can get into table of contents or like top 3 points or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But that's my North Star because I know if I don't have that up there, I can easily get lost
You'll drift away. You'll
thinking it
drift
perfect.
away. Yeah, but it's the same. But it's good. I mean, as a writer, fellow writer, that's how you know what should be in the final version of the book. What is contributing the signal versus what's actually adding to the noise, and so you can edit based on that principle as well.
So, how can we translate that idea of the noise versus the signal to something like social media and
Hmm.
putting out content on social media? Because we all know there's so much noise there. But if we're trying to be a signal and a nice homing signal that's steady to kind of attract
Hmm.
people in, how do we not get swayed into being part of the noise? Because that's where all the likes are.
Well, you make your own noise, right?
Hmm.
Create your own signal. Like make sure you're and focus on honing your signal. And you do that by really understanding what your message is, right? I think this is, amplify your message is really all about that. Like, do you know what it
Hmm.
is you stand for? And more importantly, why you stand for that? And do you really stand for that? Because once again, going back to character, the work that I talk about, my message is when pressed, when squeezed, when uh, it is in moments of duress, can you still show up with that signal? Will you be that clear regardless of what's happening externally and internally? And I think that's when you have found your why in your message, because you're not going to go off that, you're not coming off that pedestal. You are going to stand there even if it means you're going to take fire. You're going to stand there even if it means that it's going to be an unpopular position. You're going to stand in that. You stand on that. That's what people say, standing on business. You're standing on your business. You're standing on your beliefs, and that's, I think it's really important. Now, you also, in a social media world and environment, you have to be, as much as you're willing to stand on your beliefs, you also have to be able to acknowledge the other side. And I think
Right.
what we don't have today is enough acknowledgement of other people's perspectives and beliefs, and saying, listen, once again, to this whole idea that the pie can get bigger, the pie can have more than one ingredient. You can have a pie with peaches and apples, actually. I don't know if it's delicious, but you could make one. Theoretically, it's possible to have a pie with blueberries and pecans. I don't know if it's good,
Ooh.
but it is definitely possible to find an end. And so I think you have to also hold space for the other side. And we don't do that well enough in today's society, which is to hold dear to our beliefs, but also be willing to acknowledge that there are maybe contradictory opinions, and being able to engage the plus platforms. Some of my favorite podcasts, things that I watch now, are people who are willing to engage different points of view
I
in a
know who you're
thoughtful
talking about.
dialogue. And I love that. Like, I
Yeah.
love that. I think it's really, it's emulating, it's showing that's high character, because I'm not going to shut out your signal from my our signals can coexist. I don't need to eradicate your signal for mine to exist.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's not a zero sum game. It's actually, there is infinite amplification. I mean, as far as last time I checked, the universe is still expanding. So there's no finite nature to this whole thing. So think about this whole thing infinitely and abundantly, and make space for everybody.
Let's go back to that for a moment. This, because you mentioned the scarcity mindset and the abundance
Mhm.
mindset and making decisions from those places.
Right.
How much does that actually impact something or somebody in C-suite versus, I'm just going to use the stereotype of a cog type of employee. So,
Right.
like the grunt worker doing the thing at the very end of the line. Yes.
So the sometimes, and this is the unfortunate reality of the current nature of corporate.
Yeah.
So why do certain people rise to the top of organizations and some people stay at the bottom of organizations? Well, what you don't realize as you're going up to an organization, what you're being paid for is not your brilliance and your insight and your ideation. You're being paid for your assimilation. So the
Oh,
people who rise to the top of an organization are the most assimilated into that organization by the time they get there, which is why
okay.
external CEOs coming into established organizations don't do very well, because they have not assimilated. to that culture. And so, and you're bringing in one human being to change the entire corporate culture that's existed for 100 that's existed for hundreds of years. That's a really challenging value proposition, and it doesn't. I think the case studies would bear out that doesn't really work out too well. The most successful CEOs are ones people who come from within because they have already been assimilated by that system. And when you're assimilated by a system, you are in charge of keeping the system operating as it is and not changing it too much. So therefore, because we have this triangle analogy of organizational hierarchy and you're at the tip of the spear, your job is to uphold the hierarchy of the organization. And so that does hold everybody else in the organization down, which is why the people with the highest ego, which means the highest degree of fear, the highest degree of possessiveness, tend to rise to the top of the organization. Because that, and then it engenders really bad behaviors, toxicity, and things that we see pervading down throughout the ranks of the organization. Now, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. If you're an abundant-minded leader, then basically you connect the top to the bottom of the organization and you flip this hierarchy over and you say, we all exist to serve the masses.
Yeah.
So if they're cogs, then we're the liquid that fuels the cogs.
Yeah.
We serve the cogs. That keeps it, and we exist to therefore make sure that these people experience as little friction in their work as possible, so they can operate abundantly, and they can achieve more with the time and capacity they have. If we all focus that way, it would transform the way corporations can innovate and move throughout time. And so that's kind of the big idea of an abundant executive. And that's what I'm working toward as well. My second big, character is the gateway to an abundant executive. An executive who has so much humility and so much will and such a lack of fear and ego that they can embolden and empower an entire organization to do things that no one thought they were capable of doing.
I'm your fan. Where were you like 20 years ago?
I was learning all this stuff. I was figuring this. I was in the lab. Laura. I was trying to learn this stuff.
Oh no, that's I love this so much. Okay, so you were talking about culture and being assimilated into the culture. It made me think of a science experiment, a social science experiment that I saw. They had this one person, no, I think it started with three people in a waiting room, like some sort of doctor's office or something, chiropractor, whatever. A beep sounded. Three people stood up. Then they stood back, or then they sat back down. And then somebody went into the room, so then there was two people left. The beep sounded. They stood up, and then they sat back down. This new person comes in. Beep sounded. Two people stood up, sat back down. The new person was just like, what is going on? Started following. Next person went into the room, so then it's one and one, right? Same thing happens. Then that last initial person went into the room who is part of the test. This new person was already trained. When the beep sounds, you stand up.
Right.
He doesn't know why. He has no idea why.
Doing it.
But he
I love
does
that.
it.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's what's
We
happening.
we are a copycat species, but also we've learned this. We operate in a pattern, and we find something that works. We don't want to challenge it. And listen, the corporate
Oh, I do.
hierarchy has by and large, it's worked for, I mean, let's say 100, 120, let's say 100 years, because I mean, I think the industrial revolution up to like the mid-20s is like a growth period, and we don't get solidly into like modern organizational dynamics to around the 20s and 30s. So let's say it's been 100 years, right?
Mhm.
In 100 years, this structure has largely worked. But it is crumbling over the last 20 years. Gallup is telling us every single data point that global engagement and productivity is going down every single time they track it. And this is not causing a alarm bells to ring anywhere in the world. People are not standing up when that beep goes off because they basically like, listen, because we're stuck in this thing. and they don't know how to invert it. And what I teach is that every leader, you can invert it from your position in the organization. You don't have to be the senior most leader of the organization. Invert it from where you are. And if more leaders at every level of the organization take the opportunity to invert from their spot, we begin to transform at least for groups of people who work in those areas. And I'm seeing this happen more and more frequently everywhere around the world, along with movements like positive psychology and the strengths-based movement that are forcing people to look at things differently. Because if you fundamentally lean into strengths, you cannot scarcity and weakness and hierarchy don't work in that world. Because the only people who succeed in a weakness-focused culture are those who are the best at hiding their own weaknesses.
Exactly. Thank you. And I'm in the emotional side of things because I have a history of mental health issues. I was dying 7 times. Like, it kind of got pushed into it. So like, no, don't worry, it's all good. But like, that's how this means so much to me and why I focus so much on the things that I do. So now when I see other people and their habits, I'm like, I see the emotion behind that. I see what you're not saying. And what you're not saying is that you lack these types of positive emotions, which was so easy to fix in that moment. But because you let it fester and you started to hide it away, now your body is showing, now your community is showing, now your business is showing.
Mm-hmm.
All from this one little thing way back when.
Yeah,
And
but
if
I
we
mean,
can at least talk about it, then we
yeah,
could get through it.
something is broken, Laura.
Yep.
Something is broken when we define wealth and abundance as the bottom two levels of Maslow's hierarchy.
Hmm.
Because what is Elon Musk right now? 120 whatever trillion, whatever how much he's worth now.
There's a
But
T.
all he has versus you and me is more clothing, shelter, food, water. I mean, that's all he has. He doesn't have more intimacy, doesn't have more esteem, doesn't have more self-actualization. He does not have more than I have. He could do more than I can do with what he has, but he is not wealthier than me in self-actualization.
I love that.
And so that's why you see money and material things do not create happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Belonging, esteem, giving back, those are the keys to happiness. And if they weren't, if that's why Maslow showed them in the hierarchy. Otherwise, we would have stopped at, at safety. I mean, great, we're safe. Done. Good, got it.
Exactly. 2 thumbs
There's
up.
three there's three more levels, and we don't count those things as wealth at all. And that's
Mm-hmm.
actual wealth. That's spiritual wealth. That is, mental and emotional wealth. When you're operating from those places, you can do so much more. And that's where character comes in, because you're choosing.
Yeah.
You have to be a different kind of person or the best version of yourself to remain, to achieve belonging, to have that esteem, and to ultimately provide for others with your life's purpose.
I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to say, Omar, how do we find you? And what is your favorite way to communicate? I know we started a couple minutes early,
Yes.
so I want to make sure you're good.
So OmarLHarris.com is my website. On LinkedIn, please link in with me, Omar L. Harris. On Instagram, Omar L. Harris. Will be the top 3 ways to connect with me. On Facebook, I'm Omar L. Harris, Omar L. Harris as well on Facebook. Please join. I'm building, this, world of abundance, high character. My new book, Grow with Whom, Work Ethic, Heart, Optimism, Maturity, is coming in May, along with the first character-based development platform assessment. That's going to be free for everybody. And I am looking for my first 200 beta users of the platform coming soon. So yes, Laura, you're in. Let's do the
I
beta things. I'll
Oh,
definitely send it to you,
yeah.
and we'll take it from there.
I've taken so many character and personality and whatever tests. Like, I'm Gryffindor, ENFJ, Gold, like all kinds of stuff. This has been such a delight. I enjoyed every moment. I like to hold space at the end just in case there's something on your mind or in your heart that you wanted to share. So we have about a minute and a half. What would you love to leave people with?
Once again, I want to leave everyone listening today with the idea that we understand that the world is full of distraction, full of noise, and but it is possible to dig yourself out from underneath that and find your signal. And once you find your signal, you find that true north. You can create a world of abundance for yourself and for others. It's not through manifestation, but through mindfulness. It's not through hope, but through gratitude. And the more you give to others, the more you get back in return. And so you give to get. And I really believe if more of us operated with that mindset and really thinking about how we're showing up for the other people in our lives and really making sure we're doing our absolute best more often than we're not, then I think that we can make the world a little bit better for all of us.
Oh, my heart is all warm and fuzzy now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate you.
We will call this the official close to the main part of your interview.